Okay, hello everybody and welcome to episode 8 of episode 9 of our Java tutorial, and this one's going to be focused on methods in Java. Now, we've used them before in the adventure game, but I think they're still a little bit confusing, so I'm just going to go over methods in a bit more detail, make it a bit more clear, and then we're going to move on to more advanced things. So methods can be a little bit intimidating because the idea of breaking up code in this way is a little bit strange, but it's actually very simple and it's very intuitive once you sort of understand how, you understand the logic behind it. So let's just create something simple. So let's create int a, let's just create int num1 equals 5, and always remember semicolon, int num2 equals 3. So now we have these two numbers, and let's say we want to add them. But let's say adding's too hard for me. I want to get someone else to do it. So maybe I tell someone else in my company to write me a method that'll add these two numbers. And this is essentially a really easy way to let multiple people work together. And granted, if you're really working together, you'd probably be using multiple classes. But it's a very similar system. So I could say, write me an add method. So here's the way it works. First of all, we'd want to say, first of all, we forgot to put in the main method, so we're just going to make a main method here. So public static void main string arg. So I'm writing the main method, and I don't want to do any work, so I'm going to have someone else write me the add method, and then I'm just going to call it from the main method. So now I'm the other guy, and I'm writing the add method. So I know that we're going to have to pass in two variables. So we're going to say public static. Now don't worry about the static for now, but public essentially makes it accessible from anywhere in this program. So just make it public static, and then we know that the sum of these two numbers is going to be a single integer. So the return type is also going to be an integer, so we put int here, we open the parentheses. Now we know that we're going to have to add two numbers, and they're both integers. So we can basically just create int a and int b, and that is our method. So the way this works is Java sort of lets you arbitrarily choose the names of these variables, but it's dependent on the position. And let me just move this inside the main method actually. It's good practice to do that. Anyway, so let's call this method, oh, we forgot to name it. It should be int add. Never forget to name your methods. Anyway, so now let's call this method by doing add. And now, so here we're going to want to put in num1, comma, num2. Now, what does this do? Well, it takes both of our numbers, so it takes num1 and it sets a equal to num1. It takes num2 and it sets b equal to num2. So as you can see, it just does everything by position. Assuming it's the correct data type, it'll just take whatever you put in and it'll work with it. So anyway, we're still getting an error, and that's because we've set this return type equal to an integer, and yet we haven't returned anything. So right now, in this method, add is equal to nothing. It's a serious problem. Whoever's writing this main method wants us to create the add method is not going to be happy if they don't get anything back. So what we want to do is we have to create a return statement. So we're going to do return a plus b. Now essentially what this does is it's going to set add equal to the sum of these two numbers, or whatever we have returned really, and add is an integer. So now this whole thing is basically equal to a plus b. Let's just print that out. What do we need to print out? Oh, okay. So here's the thing. What we could do is we could print out add num1 comma num2. We could do it this really slow, clunky way, or we can just create another variable, int ans, and we can set ans equal to that. I'm pretty sure this is actually the same amount of code, but whatever. It looks cooler. So now, what happens when we run this is we get 8. So, and I know I'm being a little bit repetitive, but it's really important that this makes sense. So anyway, essentially we take the number 1, we set a equal to this, we set b equal to this, we add them, and then we set add equal to this whole thing. Then we set answer equal to whatever this was, which is going to be a plus b. Then we print that out, and we're done. But this is a lot of work for this method. So let's say we wanted to print out the string in another method. So let's do that. Let's create a public static print method. So we're going to say public static. Now here's where I sort of stuttered before because I didn't want to give this away. But the thing you have to think about is, in this one, we're going to be printing out something, but we're not going to be setting the data of the method itself. Like for example, here we were setting add equal to a plus b, but in this one we're just printing it. We're not setting it equal to anything. So this is actually going to be a void method, and that's where you use a void method. And now we're going to call this, what did I say? Out. We'll just say out. Now, in this one we're going to pass in a single integer, and that's going to be int, and we're going to be passing in, let's just use a. And this will work fine. So we're going to pass in int a, and let's call this method first of all. So we're going to say out, and let's put in ands. So basically what this does is, I've already explained how we get to ands, then we put in ands, and so it finds out and it puts in ands inside here. So the answer is going to be equal to a. Well, a is going to be equal to the answer really. So now from this method we can simply just print this out. Out.print a, and we can run this and it will have the exact same result. So as you can see, methods are really just an efficient way to pass around information without doing everything linearly, and it also allows you to call things multiple times using different, well, like numbers. So for example, I'll give you an example. So we're going to say int, no, let's just say, so let's say ands equals add, actually, add, and we'll just put in 10, comma 7, 2, whatever. And now what we'll do, and we actually need a second variable for this, ands 2, and we're just going to set this, ands 2. So, and basically, sorry, this is getting a little bit, I don't explain stuff when I'm doing it all the time, especially when I'm tired. Anyway, so we have ands2, which is here. Now we can just call the method using ands2 again. Now essentially this does the exact same thing as it did before, except using these numbers now. So now we should get both of these, 8 and 12. And let's actually just make this a print line so that we get them on different lines. So we get 8 and we get 12. So for this operation, just getting the sum of two numbers, it's really not that helpful to have multiple methods. But for something more complicated, like when you're trying to make a really big program, you really do want to have multiple methods so you don't have to constantly rewrite things to do stuff. So for example, if we were doing a really complex formula and we had to put in like 10 variables, we could just simply make a method that would do it, and then we could just call that whenever we wanted and put in numbers for the variables. And that's a really fast way to call it and execute that function multiple times. So that's sort of the basics of using methods, and that's basically all methods are. They're very useful, and anyway, in the next tutorial we're going to start looking at multiple classes, how to use them together, how to create objects and everything. So if you liked the video, please give it a like. If you didn't like the video, give it a like anyway. Please share the video because that helps me a lot, and also subscribe if you want to see future content. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.